Alright, I think I'm going to put this video on YouTube, another in the series, Why People Laugh at Atheists. It's got Professor Ant on it, so I figure, well, what the hell, we'll put it on YouTube. And I kind of want to shove it in people's faces a little bit on YouTube. It's about YouTube atheists, so I'll shove it in your face. But yeah, in future, I'm going to try to put most of these videos will be on the website, so go there if you're interested in the missing numbers. So anyway, on to the show. Alright, hit the button. I'm going to do another one, number 6. Okay, this one's basically the circle of life version, the fable version. But it'll be Andy and Corey. Yeah, Andy and Corey. So anyway, let's do this one real quick. This one's a quick video, so we can do it really quick.
Life has meaning. How do we deal with that statement? Well, I think it's fairly easy how we deal with it. 2 words prove it. Okay. Life is meaningless. Can't we deal with that one the same way? If not, why not?
Yeah, so using the words meaning, right? So these are atheists, right? They can't even, again, no clinical vernacular. So instead of saying, does it have an intelligent design purpose, was it constructed to accomplish something by something that had knowledge of what it was doing? Yeah, I think we can answer that without any reasonable doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt. So here he's saying, life has meaning, an act of blind faith. If it is, then so is life has no meaning. So he's basically saying right here that if you believe in evolution as an atheist, if you believe, okay, that life, if you believe in abiogenesis, that life is really just the byproduct of chemistry, that as a inspiration, it has nothing more behind it than the little spot on Jupiter, or emeralds, or any other chemical manifestation. So if you see patterns in rocks, or geometry in some sort of chemistry, that life is basically the product of that. That it's just chemistry. Now, if you believe that, because every single bit of evidence points to that truth, he's saying that's the same thing as faith. That's the same thing as believing in a God and a heaven and a hell and all that crap. It's an act of faith. It's now your belief system is somehow incredible, or just as credible as anything somebody just makes up. Yeah, you know. So these are atheists. This is what atheists support. Again, 5 likes, no dislikes. So they like to hear this kind of crap. They like to be told that evolution is a faith theory. These are atheists, right? Yeah. So I mean, they even get less about the what's at stake here than the Christians. They have just no clue what's at stake here. They're like, oh, you mean we're really talking about the meaning of life? And it completely escapes them. It escapes them. It just escapes. Just right over their heads. You know, they're the fucking kids in the room. The atheists are the fucking children here. The theists at least understand that there's something at stake here, that there is something happening here, that this isn't a nothing, this is a something. Oh, amazing. Yeah, I mean, really, just frickin' amazing. And, conference report. The strange case of he God in the right time. In the nighttime. He God in the nighttime. I guess that's a quote from some sort of bullshit. But way to be obtuse. Thank you. Appreciate it. So anyway, just absolute rubbish. So anyway, let's break this meaning thing down into some kind of simpler language. Okay, something more explicit. The real game is, does life have a function? Okay, it's this thing on planet Earth. That's what the evidence points to. It's a thing on planet Earth. There's a replicating molecule 4 billion years ago. It has evolved into these eccentric, animated, reflexive organisms that have a consciousness that is capable of feeling and thinking. This is what's taken place over 4 billion years on the surface of planet Earth. Now, does that stuff on the surface of planet Earth have a function? Does it do something? Does it produce something? Okay? Beyond something that is of innate value, of innate do more of it, have it, we need it, something needs it, some prescription, some logical prescription. If there was a Mr. Spock in space, he would say, yes, it is good. Like God, he would point to it and say, yes, it is good. And he wouldn't say it because he made it. He'd say it because he sees purpose in it, or function in it, or that it's doing something that needs to be done. That if that thing that it's doing doesn't get done, that somehow there'll be something missing, something wrong. So we're already in trouble, right? Because the only way something can be missing or wrong or any of that stuff is some sentience has to be around to be impacted by it. So first off, you'd have to conclude, atheists, that there's a consciousness somewhere going, oh, I really hope life wins. You'd have to do that. That's the only way you could make sense out of the function of life and say it's necessary or it needs to exist. That it embetterizes the universe. The only way it could possibly embetterize the universe is that it has to make something else happy. It has to please the universe somehow. And the only way it can please the universe somehow is there has to be a bunch of other sentient crap somewhere going, I hope life wins. I mean, you understand that? Unfortunately, this need stuff always does end up circular. You end up justifying a need with some other need. The need needs to be needed. Needs to be needed, needs to be needed, needs to be needed. So it's always circular, self-justifying, not justified by some other function. But let's concede that there's some element of life that's, valuable, that somehow is innately a good thing. We know that there's a ton of bad stuff happening for the price of it. And so it's still going to be an equation of functionality. It's still going to be like you look at the car, you judge its fuel economy, and if you find out it's consuming 670,000 gallons of gasoline to move 4.5 feet, you say, no, do not turn that car on. That's simple. It's not that complicated. So those are your two issues. First, you have to make a God to make it functional, because it doesn't do anything. The universe doesn't need it. Okay, the need is in your perception, and that's the only place it exists. When you're gone, the need is gone. When life doesn't exist, when humans don't exist on planet Earth, there's no need for life to exist. If Mars just had tyrannosauruses and less on it, a bunch of animals just eating each other, you wouldn't sit there logically and go, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Let's make more of those. Let's make more planets where, yes, the circle of life takes place, like the movie, the circle of life. The antelope eat the grass, and the lions eat the antelope, and the lions die and turn into grass. So the antelopes can eat them and shit them, and then the whole circle of life crap. And it's just that. It's crap. It's just self-justifying consumption. It's just basically, it's basically a fairy tale where it's just a big lose all over the place, and they just dress it up and make it sound like it's something good. Let's call it a circle of life, when actually it's just a frickin' meat grinder. That's all it is. It grinds meat. And so let's call it circle of life. Yeah, I could sell meat grinders in the store, and I'll just call them the circle of life. Right? Just because it sounds good. That's all. So this is all made out of nothing. So this is what atheists do. They are living fables and fairy tales of purpose and function. And these are the important words. Of intention, of wisdom, of intelligence. Presumed through faith. Exactly. No evidence of any of those things. No evidence of created purpose. No evidence of knowledgeable creation. No, it is slop. It is basically a biological function. You don't sit there and look at something that flies out of your butt and say, wow, isn't that a brilliant design? You really don't. And that's what life is. Life is a ground beef, Alright, so we'll play some of this Professor Anton. We'll just jump around. It's all jibber jabber anyway. And we'll just get to the magic end.
Going on about what does it mean to say that you bring someone into existence? And as much as I don't want to participate in the natalist, anti-natalist
Blah, 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 blah.
debate, I find it all too reductive and too overstated.
Okay,
and
right. Too reductive. This is a key
much
word
dogma.
again. So again, atheists can't deal with reduction. They don't like the challenge of dissection. And that's what reduction is. Let's just get to the truth of it. All right, it's just basically tearing it apart, looking at how it functions, looking at the details, looking at the truth. That's what reductionism is. It's nothing else than that. It's looking at the parts. And atheists are somehow, that's a scary concept. We won't be accountable for that. Yeah. Let's look at the price of the war. No, let's not look at the price. Let's not look at the dead bodies or the dead babies or the dead anything else. Let's just pretend it was all okay. It's like a fairy tale, like Little Red Riding Hood, right? And so the true story is, Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf eats grandma, right? That's the real story. Huntsman kills wolf, and then Huntsman dies of cancer. And Little Red Riding Hood gets herpes and dies. I mean, there's no happily ever after anywhere. There's no good story here. There's just circle of life, grind, 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 grind. All right, let's jump ahead a little bit.
what the status is or what the state is of that which we're going to call prior to existence.
Yeah, well, no one's doing that. Again, that was completely a contrivance of you atheists, okay, where you decided that we somehow had to account for the transition between I'm willfully going to have babies. I know how babies happen. I'm going to let the man put the penis in my vagina. The jizz will be shot out. I will get pregnant. I will have baby. People do it that way, okay? They don't do some bullshit where somebody sits behind a gate somewhere and waits to come into existence, okay? They deliberately have a baby, and when the baby gets here, okay, when it pops out, after a while, it will say one day, holy shit, I'm conscious. It'll just fall on them. They will realize they are conscious. It'll be one of the functions that happens in their brain. A function that turns on and off all the time in your life. You fall down on the ice and you're unconscious for 10 minutes. You go to sleep every night and you're unconscious for a while. Sometimes you're dreaming, but sometimes you're not. Really not that complicated. But you're the ones who have to contrive some prisoner of war camp that everybody sits in before they come into existence. Well, that's your bullshit. That's another faith theory. That's just a contrivance of your fairy tales. That's just like your happily ever after. Well, just like happily ever after, the purgatory of non-existence doesn't exist.
I think one of the ways
Jumping ahead.
way of self-consciousness. And so to that extent, again, it seems sort of odd to say that a person, even two people by an act of sex, brings consciousness or brings sentience into the world. No, there's a whole host of other factors that are completely beyond a person or even two people's control.
Oh, so again, so this is what atheists do to simple biology. It's simple biology, okay? You do mix it. You mix the ingredients, and once you mix them, you're going to have the reaction. We know how nuclear power plants work. We know somehow you can understand chemistry and its basic function and all these other aspects of life, and yet when it comes to reproduction, it's all of a sudden magical and mysterious, and we can't figure it out. No, we can figure it out. You can figure it out when you go to the store and buy a dog, or go to the shelter and buy a dog. The dog didn't come from nowhere. It didn't just poof. Came from a process, maybe a farm where they deliberately, bred the dogs and forced the babies to basically pop out. That was the whole industry they're in. They certainly understand how it works, okay? You put the two dogs together, humpity bumpity, and all of a sudden you got 5 puppies. They know how it works. It's not complicated. It's an act of volition. I want to have more of these puppy things. I will make more puppy things. It's an act of a person's volition. It's not complicated. It's not magic. It's not rainbows. It's not a story. It's biology. Oh, man.
somehow find meaning where there really isn't any. And the people who can really see the truth feel the moral weight of the fact that sentience is an imposition of suffering, that it's a morally unjustified act, and the only moral response is basically to not have children.
Well, it's a simple equation, all right? You can take risk. There's risk here, okay, of good and bad outcome. And the point is there some purpose in taking the risk? Is there some reason? Is there some fire we're going to put out? Does life do something in the universe besides satisfy human delusions? Besides human delusions, is there anything else that life is doing on Earth for anything anywhere? That's the simple question. And the simple answer is, of course, not. Just as the missing Martians aren't missed, okay, the missing Earthlings will not be missed. All right? They don't function. They don't do anything beyond satisfy delusions in human heads. There's nothing else going on here but satisfying delusions in human heads. All right? And do you subject something to risk for that purpose? Do you risk harming for that purpose, to satisfy a delusion, a need? Okay, and that's all that's being done here. It's all selfish circle of life. That's all that's here. There's nothing else. There's just selfishness grinding new babies out. There's no intelligent function. There's no intelligent purpose. There's no intelligent act. There's no intelligent will. None of this has anything to do with doing what's right or doing what's wrong. It has to do with selfish people acting selfishly, period. And atheists are too stupid to concede that fundamental, factual truth.
To gracefully bow out at this point. Again, this is sort of, I think, roughly the argument.
Oh, yeah, whatever, roughly. We'll bow out of a risk equation. Again, you're just going to ignore the fact that this is about whether or not things should be subjected to risk for no purpose. This is like saying, shall I walk out into a lightning storm for no good reason? For none. I could just as well sit down and watch cartoons, happily ever after cartoons, or I'll go outside and try to get struck by lightning. There's no logic to it. There's no sense to it. And the only reason why somebody would do that is because of some selfish desire to do it. Period.
Isn't yet in existence, and so how would you bring it into existence? And can you impose upon it? And people say, well, no.
Well, look, this is imposing upon it as if it, again, exists in some non-existent place, and then you impose upon it. Again, we know the process, and the implications of the process are quite obvious. If you keep turning the grinder, things will get ground up in it. We know the consequence. We know how the game is played. So it's just stupid. It's ignorant. It's preposterous to sit there and speculate about the fact of whether or not there's a risk. Of course there's a risk. Of course it happens to things that will exist. The idea that there is a future and that you're going to implicate it, again, this is an act of faith now? We're atheists are going to convert the future into an act of faith?
No, it's not like that at all. It's that the deprivation of coming into existence can't be a harm because there is no you there. Okay, yeah. But then we're back to this, well, who would the imposition be upon?
Well, again, like I said, there's to deny the fact that when somebody raises mice for laboratory experimentation, that they don't willfully and deliberately create the mice and then subject them to harm. To say that they have no implication in that behavior would be ludicrous. It's preposterously insane to say it isn't an act of deliberate, willful behavior. They know exactly what's going to happen. They know exactly for what purpose they've done it. It's not a mystery. And to say they haven't imposed on the mice, is that what you're going to be your argument, that they somehow didn't impose upon them, that misery isn't being imposed upon? This is like slave owners saying, well, the slaves are reproducing. I don't have anything to do with it. But yeah, I'm really glad I got extra slaves. Yeah, I mean, what? He wouldn't understand the mechanism. He wouldn't understand how the game is played. He's just going to sit there and pretend the slaves come from nowhere, and that he's not imposing because they just exist. Poof! Oh, there was one. Hey, there's a new one. Poof! I didn't make it happen. I think we could say bullshit together on that one, couldn't we? Couldn't we all say bullshit?
Except the person that would already be in existence. And then you ask, well, is it a forgivable imposition?
Well, whatever. Forgiveness is silly in the context of circle of life. Circle, circle. If you're going to keep turning the handle, then no one's going to forgive you if you still got the gun in your hand and you still got bullets in the gun. Okay, you got to at least put the gun down. Ooh, metaphor. You got to put the gun down. Okay, or you're not going to get forgiven. That's just bullshit. You're not sorry. How the fuck could you possibly forgive somebody who isn't fucking apologizing? I mean, that would be fucking ludicrous. Right? I'm going to kill your whole family. I forgive you. Is that going to save your family? No, because he intends on killing your family, you stupid fuck. I mean, god damn, that just doesn't make any sense at all. I forgive the imposition, so go ahead and do it to the next fucking sucker. No, thank you. That doesn't make any sense. That's like taking the glass of smallpox and passing it on to the little 6-year-old girl sitting next to you. I mean, what the fuck is that? That's something we should all get stoic about, the heroic guy who passed the cup of smallpox on to the 6-year-old? I don't think so.
I've said yes, I think it is. Depends upon how you've been parented and your situation, but I think many people do come to forgive the...
Yeah, whatever. How you've been parented. So you're an adult and you're still worried about how you've been parented. You haven't thought, these are atheists again, they can't think past what mommy told them. Mommy told me silly stories and I'm going to just believe them my whole fucking life because I'm an atheist. So you still believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Rabbit and Snow White and all the 6 million other little pieces of propaganda shoved down your little stupid gob when you're a little stupid kid. And that's all you are. You can't think any brighter than that. That's as bright as your light bulb will ever get, what little mommy shoved into your frickin' moronic head. No, I don't think so, Professor. Why are you even a professor if you think mommy decides what people understand in the world or what they think? Why are you a professor? It just sort of doesn't make any sense. It's like, oh yeah, go to school for 18 years, then go to special education, okay, special higher bibble-babble education, where I'll just validate that you are what mommy told you are. Sorry, no fucking sale. What we have to do is deal with the facts. There's facts in the world, we have to glean them out of the world, and then we have to analyze them and ask simple questions. Does this machine do anything? Does this thing really function well enough for us to keep the key, to turn the key on, to keep the thing running? Or is it just a mechanical, crazy whack device? It's a frickin' circle of lifer. That's what it is. And shouldn't we just sit there and turn the key off? It's not doing anything good.
Your argument and ask if they, this antinatalist giving the argument, would have been this hypothetical unborn, this non-yet existing person who keeps getting postulated in different ways in the argument, if we were to tell them, look, most people find life, I guess, reasonably...
Whatever. The question to ask myself or for you to say is, first off, would I want to live the life of most people on planet Earth? So again, don't give me your most people crap of their personal opinion. I'm asking you directly, would you live their life? I don't think you would choose to. I don't think you'd say in non-existence and you'd say, oh yeah, please, give me that Indonesian, die when you're 17 life, yeah, in a cement mixer. Yeah, sure you would. Sure you'd go for that African, 15 million different parasites living inside of you life. Sure you would. I mean, and again, this argument from popularity from professors is really interesting. You don't see the glaring holes in the idea of arguing from popular notions. And again, could we just go with the statistics? The smarter you are, the less children you have. That's a truth. The more educated you are, the less children you have. That's a truth. These are all, every factor points in that direction. And then we could just talk about the average person. How many people are on Prozac in the United States of America, the most flourishing, powerful, money-rich country in the world, and how many people are on fucking Prozac or Ritalin or some other fucking piece of chemistry to get them through their day? And how many lies and bits of propaganda they have to feed into their consciousness on a daily basis just to keep their little optimism wheels running. So don't be meat grinder. The fact that they don't know it's a meat grinder, the fact that you silly atheists are still living for Santa Claus dreams, I have no obligation to account for your stupidity. Your stupidity is a known fact. It's a known fact that if I challenge the average person to tell me, where the island of Africa is on a map, they won't be able to find it. The average person is a fucking imbecile, and I should listen to it. The average person thinks angels exist. So this is what atheists do. They point to the 70% who think fucking angels are coming to the rescue, and they tell me, well, they don't think you're right. Well, damn, isn't that not persuasive?
Tolerable. Some people, I guess, claim to find it enjoyable. A good number of people claim that it's better to have not been.
Again, I don't even care about that, right? Let's say their testimony actually had validity and they were actually happy. So what? How is their happiness any more meaningful than the non-existent Martian happiness? Has anybody shed a half a tear for the non-existent Martians? So again, we're back to it doesn't have any real meaning. It only has meaning because we're here to make it meaningful. That's the circle. We're self-justifying our own happiness. Our happiness isn't necessary. It's only necessary because we're frickin' here and we need it. Okay, but take away our need and there is no need. The need is not intrinsic. The need is completely a contrivance of our existence. So that's a big problem. A contrivance of our existence. Deal with that phrase. A contrivance of our existence. A byproduct of our existence. That's where the need comes from. It's a byproduct of the circle. Stop the circle, the need disappears. It doesn't exist as a reality. It only exists as a delusion in your frickin' heads. And you can't torture something for a delusion in your head. And that's the part of the equation that's important. How many people are you allowed to torture, okay, to satisfy a delusion of accomplishment? How many people are you allowed to torture to satisfy a delusion of accomplishment? How many people are you allowed to torture to satisfy a delusion of accomplishment? Answer me that. Answer me that, please, atheists.
But we're going to make the decision for you because we think these few people...
Well, quite obviously, the decision has to be made. This is like nuclear power. There's either going to be nuclear power plants or there won't be nuclear power plants. There's no half pregnant. Okay, so there's a decision to be made. And either way, the nature of the decision creates this imposition. But the truth is, there's a big difference between turning a key on and turning a key off. One is an act of aggression, one is an act of defense. So there's still that argument here, okay? There is a battle between the gladiators. The point is we can see which act came first. We can see which sword was thrusted first, and the circle of life was thrusted first. Okay, so if you're going to have children, it's an act of aggression. There's no doubt about it. You're aggressively imposing. There's no doubt about that. And if somebody says no thank you or tries to stop your imposition, it's not the same kind of imposition, quite obviously. If you're defending against somebody else's sword, the shield can't be called an aggressive weapon. No, it's a weapon against the sword. I mean, there is a distinction in action here. Both are actions, but one is aggressive intrinsically. You will invest in my judgment. And the other one is, no, I don't want any investments at all. Thank you very much.
Really had the truth. And, you're not going to get to... These would be the same people who'd be clamoring, going, I don't want other people to decide for me.
Yeah, you could say that in every single argument. You could convert it into that kind of rubbish. Okay, that's just absolute nonsense. There is no purgatory somewhere where you sit and say, I'm clamoring to get out. So that part of the argument is nonsense. And prove it, I guess is what I would say. Prove some other part of my philosophy where I've said, go ahead, take risk. Risk is good. Prove it. Demonstrate it. Demonstrate that I would be one of those people. Or that these people are the same as those people who would do that. No. Okay, they wouldn't cheer on the acts of aggression.
I think that's sort of the irony of it.
No, that's a completely made-up pile of shit. Okay, there is no such irony. Okay, there's people who will do things and impose on others, and there's people who find that abhorrent. There's people who go with the fail-safe and people who go with the risk high. Okay? Yeah, there's people who gamble and people who don't gamble. I hate gambling. I've gambled. I've said, oh, this is for fucking morons. And then I've walked away and said, this is silly. And I was 7 years old. At 7 years old, I knew gambling was stupid.
Right? That the person who would be the anti-natalist, who's so willing to dismiss others' view and appraisal of life.
Yeah, it's so easy to dismiss. Again, you're the dismissers. You're the one saying everybody else thinks you're stupid. Everybody else doesn't believe what you believe. Everybody else believes in the angels. Why aren't you listening to the angel believers? They're right. That's what the atheists are saying. Listen to those people who believe in angels. They're right. That's your silly argument.
Those would be the same people who, would they be, waiting entrance into existence, wouldn't want others to make that decision for them.
Well, again, there's just no way. Like I said, you make the choice, right? The future would like you to make a decision that'll prevent World War III. That's what the future would like you to do. You either will do it or you won't do it, right? I mean, the future depends on you making decisions. You creating the foundation to live on. And if you want to try to make some kind of silly argument that anti-natalists are basically not risk-averse consistently, well, I'd say prove it. Okay? But till then, it's just a slander. It's just anybody could say it. I'll just call you. You're the kind of people who would sit there and defend slavery. You'd do nothing. You'd sit back and contrive up some sort of circle of life bullshit to justify it. What's the point of making stupid arguments like that? So bravo. Another cheap shot. Okay, there's no purgatory where people are sitting around going, oh, I wish I existed. It doesn't exist, and you have no evidence that I'm one of the people who say, go ahead and do something risky for some delusion in your head. Sorry. Doesn't make any sense. I want to be protected against recklessness. I only want smart intelligence decisions to be made. Stupid ones I have no interest in justifying or defending. So show me where I've defended some stupid notion in the head, human activity, where I've defended anything else but thoughtful decision making. And most babies are produced through something quite opposite to thoughtful decision making. Provable fact. Thank you very much. Such.